Welcome to Religion Uncovered. Today we're diving right into the tangled legacy of Flavius Josephus, that controversial historical figure.
I'm excited to jump in. What immediately strikes you about his story?
Well, to start, Josephus, born as Joseph ben Matityahu in 37 CE in Jerusalem, had a rich background. He was from a priestly aristocratic family and was steeped in learning from all the major Jewish sects. It's incredible how, even by 16, he was versed in the Pharisees, Sadducees, and Essenes.
Right. And aligning with the Pharisees set his early life on a particular path, didn't it?
Exactly. And then fast forward to 64 CE, when he heads over to Rome to negotiate the release of some priests. That was really an early indicator of his talent in diplomacy and political maneuvering.
Yeah. His journey is like a roadmap of ambition and adaptation. It sort of foreshadows the later dramatic twist during the Great Jewish Revolt.
Absolutely. By 66 CE, when the revolt kicks off, he ends up as the commander of Jewish forces in Galilee. But then after the siege of Jotapata in 67 CE, he ends up surrendering to the Romans, which almost brands him as, a traitor.
That must have caused a massive rift. Indeed. Many Jews saw him as, the ultimate turncoat. That quote by Tessa Rajak about him being a traitor of the worst kind really underscores the intensity of the betrayal, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. And what's fascinating is that right after he surrendered, he predicted that Vespasian would become emperor. And guess what? Vespasian did in 69 CE. Josephus then becomes a client of Rome and takes the family name Flavius. It's like he was rebranding himself under completely new terms.
That's wild. It's like he was reinventing his identity to align with the new power structure. But doesn't that make his historical accounts, especially his writings, kind of conflicted?
Yes, exactly. His transformation definitely colors his perspective. He went on to become the court historian for the Flavian dynasty. His works like The Jewish War, Antiquities of the Jews against Apion, and even his autobiographical The Life of Josephus are not just historical records, they're also literary artworks shaped by his political alliances.
Right. And that means his writings carry both historical insight and the bias of someone, trying to justify his own actions.
Exactly. And speaking of bias, one of the most debated issues is the Testimonium Flavianum in Antiquities 1833. It's this passage that describes Jesus as a wise man, a miracle worker, even mentioning his crucifixion and resurrection.
Yeah, that passage is critical for many Christian apologists, right? Yes, many do lean on it as a secular testament to Jesus' existence. But a lot of scholars have pointed out that the language here seems out of character for Josephus.
Right, and scholars like Steve Mason, Bart Ehrman, Paula Fredrickson, and John Meyer all argue that it has significant Christian interpolations. It smells a bit too nice in favor of Jesus for someone who, by all accounts, was not a Christian.
But then there's that other reference to James, the brother of Jesus. That one is somewhat more accepted, isn't it?
Exactly. In Antiquities 20.9.1, Josephus mentions James by name. Most experts accept this as authentic, though a few argue it too might have been tidied up by later hands. Yet it remains a key anchor for many discussions on early Christianity.
So, for a guy who wasn't a Christian himself, his writings somehow ended up bolstering Christian historical claims?
That's the twist. Despite never converting, Josephus inadvertently became crucial for Christian apologists. His accounts offer what some see as secular verification of New Testament events.
It's ironic.
Though it's important to note that his works reflect his own agenda, too.
It does sound like he was a bit of a political chameleon, adapting to whichever side would give him the best patronage.
Exactly. His own life was a weaving of contradicting loyalties. A Jewish priest who fought, then defected, and then wrote history for his new Roman patrons. It paints him as both a traitor and a historian all at once.
I like that complexity. But don't you think there's a risk of overcritical reading? I mean, he was also navigating very turbulent times, and everyone in power was shaping narratives.
True. We must, and as Steve Mason suggests, read Josephus as a product of his environment, a literary artist molded by politics, ambition, and patronage. It's like reading history through a kaleidoscope of personal and political interests.
Right. And isn't it fascinating how modern scholars like N.T. Wright and Craig Evans use his writings to support New Testament claims, despite his personal, non-Christian stance?
Absolutely. It's almost paradoxical. Here's a man who never embraced Christianity, yet his work serves as a cornerstone for validating it. Meanwhile, critics like Robert Eisenman argue that Josephus might have purposely obscured or distorted early Christian movements to favor a narrative that aligned with Rome's interests.
That's a strong point. Eisenman's view really challenges the assumption that Josephus was merely an innocent bystander. He was actively involved in shaping the religious history that followed.
Exactly, and it raises a lot of questions. When we see his texts quoted to prove Jesus existed, we must ask, was it actually Josephus speaking, or were these later Christian scribes reshaping his words?
That's a critical distinction. It also challenges us to consider the power of narrative. Even in ancient times, history wasn't just written, but carefully crafted by those in power.
Right. And beyond the specific controversies, Josephus invites us to think about how history is recorded at the crossroads of politics, faith, and ambition. His dual identity as both a Jewish historian and a Roman loyalist really complicates the picture.
Yeah, it's like his work is both a mirror and a mask for the people of his time. There's the reflective part that shows historical events, and then there's the agenda that was pushing his narrative.
Exactly, and his self-defense work, The Life of Josephus, almost feels like an attempt to legitimize his controversial choices after the revolt. It's fascinating how he uses his own biography to counteract the reputation of being a traitor.
It kind of reminds me of modern political spin, where leaders rewrite their narratives to, maintain power or favorability.
Sure does. And let's not forget how he frames the destruction of the temple in 70 CE. Josephus casts it as divine retribution for Jewish zealotry, a subtle justification for Roman actions.
Yeah, that interpretation definitely leans into political justification, doesn't it? Definitely, it's like he's transforming tragedy into a moral lesson that supports his chosen side. But, don't you think that might be a bit too convenient?
That's a valid critique. It's sort of like he's bending reality to fit a narrative that reinforces his allegiance to Rome. While he provides valuable historical details, his work clearly isn't neutral.
Right.
It's filtered through his personal need to justify his actions.
So in a way, Josephus is both a historian and a propagandist. His writings serve dual purposes.
Exactly, and that's why his works continue to spark such heated debates. They're indispensable historical records, yet they also require us to read between the lines, questioning whose voice is really being heard.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the reliability of history from any period, especially when personal ambition and politics are in the mix.
For sure. Josephus stands at the crossroads of Jewish, Roman, and Proto-Christian narratives. His legacy is a reminder that history is never just a list of events. It's a complex tapestry woven from personal, political, and religious threads.
Absolutely. So, where do we stand on Josephus? Was he a traitor, a truth-teller, or maybe something else entirely?
That's the big question, isn't it? His life and work force us to ask who benefits from the stories we tell and how narratives can shift over time. It's like, each reading of his texts reveals a different facet of his character, one crafted by his own survival instincts and ambition.
I love that complexity. It really challenges us to think critically about the sources we hold as historical truth, especially when they come laced with personal bias.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even ancient history can be as murky as our modern political debates.
Exactly. And whether you view him as a doomed traitor or a cunning survivor, Josephus embodies the idea that personal history is never pure. It's always interlaced with the environment and power structures of its time.
Well said. His story keeps us questioning and exploring, and that's what really makes history so riveting, don't you think?
Absolutely. Each time we dig into his works, it's like peeling back layers of history, each layer revealing not just what happened, but what someone wanted us to believe happened.
A fascinating discussion indeed. It makes you wonder, in our own time, how much of what we consider historical truth is, well, shaped by those in power?
Exactly. History is written by those who survive, and sometimes those who rewrite their legacies. Josephus certainly gave us a lot to think about.
I agree. Thanks for such an engaging look into his life and work. It's been a roller coaster of ancient intrigue and modern interpretation.
Anytime. It's discussions like these that remind us that history, with all its complexities, is alive and ever evolving. Let's keep questioning, keep exploring.
Definitely. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts on Josephus in the comments.
Thanks for tuning in to Religion Uncovered. Until next time, keep uncovering the layers of the past.